Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into today's topic, if you find our insights helpful, please take a moment to subscribe, hit the like button, and share this content with others who might find it valuable. Your support helps us continue, bringing you deep dives into global politics and economics. What does the U.S. Congress mean by legislative response? Is it an actual move to pass a law, or is it merely a political warning? Hello everyone. In our last session, we looked into what the U.S. Congress means by oversight. Today we will analyze a question that many of you have been most curious about. Specifically, the U.S. Congress has signaled a legislative response. What exactly does this mean? Does it mean they are definitely going to pass a law? Is it an exaggeration by the media? Or is it simply a warning aimed at exerting political pressure? Understanding the legislative process of the U.S. Congress allows us to interpret this expression much more accurately. To give you the bottom line first in American politics, phrases like considering a legislative response or pushing for legislation do not guarantee that a law will be passed, nor do they mean nothing will happen. Rather, it is best understood as a political and institutional signal. It means Congress has placed the issue on the policy agenda and is prepared to deploy various countermeasures, including statutory amendments if deemed necessary. In short, legislation is just one of many available options, and whether it actually moves forward, as well as what it will ultimately contain, depends on subsequent investigations, negotiations, and political consensus. Why doesn't the U.S. Congress pass laws immediately? Many people wonder, if the issue is truly critical, why not just pass a bill right away? However, the U.S. legislative process is not that simple. Once a law is enacted, its ripple effects extend beyond American companies to foreign businesses, consumers, diplomatic relations, and financial markets. Therefore, the U.S. Congress typically follows this sequence. Gather information, hear opinions from the executive branch, listen to feedback from the industry, monitor diplomatic consultations with allies, draft a bill if necessary. As you can see, actual legislation is one of the very last steps in the process. Why are reports published first? The U.S. Congress places intense weight on reports. A congressional report is not just a simple opinion piece. It is an official, formal raising of an issue by Congress. Once a report is released, the executive branch reviews its contents. Corporations begin preparing their response strategies. Foreign governments identify the core areas of concern for the U.S. Congress. In essence, a report can serve as a precursor to legislation, or it can be a political signal designed to incentivize negotiations. What does it mean to signal a legislative response? In American politics, this expression simultaneously encompasses several possibilities. For example, if a committee states, "We will continue to monitor this situation," it becomes difficult for the executive branch to ignore the issue any longer. Companies also begin assessing potential changes in the law, and the market responds. This means that even before a bill physically exists, its political impact is already underway. It does not guarantee a bill will be passed. There is a highly crucial point to note here. The U.S. Congress introduces thousands of bills every year. However, the percentage of these that actually become law is extremely low. This is because a bill must successfully navigate numerous hurdles, including passing both the Senate and the House of Representatives, clearing various committees, and ultimately securing the president's signature. Therefore, the phrase legislative review alone should not be taken as a definitive conclusion that a law will be enacted. Then why use this expression? The reason is that the effect of political pressure is highly potent. Corporations proactively factor in potential future legal changes. Investors calculate risk. The executive branch stays mindful of Congress's reaction. Foreign governments adjust their negotiating strategies. In other words, political and economic impacts can manifest long before any legislation actually materializes. What could actually follow next? If the U.S. Congress continues to take issue with a specific matter, the following procedures may follow. Additional reports may be published. Committee hearings may be convened. Formal inquiries may be directed to the executive branch. The progress of investigations by the USTR Office of the United States. Trade representative may be reviewed. If deemed necessary, a draft bill may be authored. However, it is not guaranteed that all of these steps will take place. The trajectory can shift based on the gravity of the issue, the broader political climate, diplomatic negotiations, and industry feedback. When does legislation speed up? Generally, the likelihood of legislation increases under the following circumstances. When Congress judges that the executive branch is not responding adequately, when damage to American companies is continuously documented, when lawmakers from both parties recognize the issue on a bipartisan basis, when the industry in question is deemed linked to national security, when the president is pursuing policies in the exact same direction. When these factors align, the momentum for pushing through legislation can accelerate rapidly. Conversely, there are cases where no legislation occurs. On the flip side, there are plenty of instances where an issue is resolved without new laws, such as when diplomatic negotiations go smoothly, when the executive branch and the counterpart country resolve the matter, or when the industry reaches a sufficient consensus. Ultimately, when the U.S. Congress uses the term legislative response, it is keeping options open. It does not automatically mean a law is being manufactured. How should we understand the current situation? In situations like the ones reported by the Korean media, interpreting the phrase, Congress signaled a legislative response, means that the U.S. Congress views the matter as a policy priority, will continue to monitor the executive branch's handling of it, and may consider introducing legislation if necessary. However, whether a bill is actually introduced and passed depends on multiple variables: future investigation results, the executive branch's response, bilateral negotiations, and the political calendar of the U.S. Congress. Therefore, it is difficult to cleanly categorize this expression as either they are definitely making a law or they are just bluffing. In American politics, this language is frequently used as a signal that carries both a policy warning and an institutional possibility. In our next session, we will look into an even more critical question. If the U.S. Congress actually moves forward with a legislative response, what kind of bills could realistically emerge? And why does the U.S. take so much time preparing legislation? We will dive deep into this by analyzing the actual types of U.S. legislation and past case studies. That's it for today's analysis. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next episode. Sharing this video with your friends and colleagues helps our community grow immensely. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next session. Thank you for watching.